Pursuant to Republic Act 9993, the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, is primarily tasked to enforce laws and regulations relevant to the promotion of safety of life and property at sea within the maritime jurisdiction of the Philippines. To strengthen its functions, the PCG activated the PCG Task Force Kaligtasan sa Karagatan, or Task Force KSK, last 21 July 2021, in line with the Command's thrust to intensify the enforcement of all domestic and international maritime laws, treaties, and conventions, and applicable memorandum circulars issued by the PCG relevant to maritime safety. Through the said task force, the Command will integrate all available resources in the implementation of necessary measures to ensure a safe maritime environment. Considering that the PCG is mandated by law to develop, establish, maintain, and operate aids to navigations, the activation of the task force will help achieve the highest level of operational efficiency of these aids to navigation, specifically our light stations and ocean buoys. Previously, the Task Force KSK was headed by the PCG Commandant, Coast Guard Admiral Artemio Abu, and was passed down to the successor of the Maritime Safety Services Command, the incumbent commander, Coast Guard Rear Admiral Joseph Coiman. Under him are the Deputy Task Force for Operations, led by the Deputy Commander MSSC, and the Deputy Task Force for RMLA, led by the Commander, Coast Guard Logistics Systems Command. The Task Force KSK is also supported by the Task Force Command Center, led by the MSSC Chief of Staff, Task Group Staff composed of Central Staff, Task Support Group composed of major PCG units, Task Operating Units composed of the 15 Coast Guard districts. The Task Force mission is to organize, equip, maintain, and utilize PCG assets all over the country to intensify enforcement of all maritime laws, conventions, and treaties on maritime safety activities, such as, but not limited to, port stay control, aids to navigation, vessel safety, navigational safety, training, marine casualty investigation, and maritime search and rescue. In line with its mission, the Task Force KSK has installed 5 buoys at the Kalayaan Island Group in the West Philippine Sea. During the planning phase, the task force conducted several online meetings to determine the actual requirements of the mission to ensure the success of the buoy laying operation. On 10 May 2022, the PCG conducted a send-off ceremony for the participating assets: BRP Corregidor AE-891, BRP Boylaying AE-46, and personnel from AIDS Navigation Service Unit, Coast Guard Medical, Coast Guard Public Affairs, BRP Suluan, MRRV 4406, BRP Habagat PB271, and BRP Capones MRRV 4404 for the buoy-laying operations at the West Philippine Sea. The Commander, Task Force Kaligtasan sa Karagatan, Coast Guard Rear Admiral Coiman, rendered his completeness report and readiness for inspection to the Commandant of the Philippine Coast Guard, followed by the inspection of troops, and after which, delivery is received. A report was then rendered to the Commandant that all participating vessels were ready for the voyage, and the proper send-off ceremony was executed. Also present during the ceremonial casting of the lines of participating vessels were the PCG Commandant, accompanied by the Task Force KSK Commander, the Commander, Coast Guard Fleet, Coast Guard Rear Admiral Rances, and the Deputy Commander for Operations of the said task force, Coast Guard Commodore Adel Jr. The Task Force Kaligtasan sa Karagatan selected the suitable floating and air assets for the buoy laying operations, namely BRP Corregidor AE-891, BRP Capones MRRV 4404, BRP Boylaying AE-46, BRP Habagat TB 271, BRP Suluan MRRV 4406, along with Cessna Caravan PCG 2081 and BN Islander PCG 251, involving a total of 255 PCG workforce. These officers and non-officers remain steadfast in its common goal to execute the mission and bring honor to the PCG and its people. In line with the Bouylaying Operations, Coast Guard Admiral Abu, together with the Commander, Task Force sa Kaligtasan sa Karagatan and other officials, conducted overflight inspection of the installed buoys at the islands of Lawak, Icaz, Parola, and Pag-asa. Subsequently, the Commandant and other officers seized the opportunity to distribute relief goods to children at Pag-asa Island and the PCG personnel stationed at the Pag-asa Island. He also inspected the living and working conditions of Station Kalayaan. More than to serve as a beacon to guide all of the users of the vicinity waters of Kalayaan Group of Islands, particularly in the ship-to-shore movement, the vessels day and night. The installed buoys will also serve as a sovereign marker, thus making it the source of pride and inspiration of the Filipinos.